Good morning all, and thank you for joining us today. We want to talk about how AI can help companies grow, how you can harness AI and use AI, particularly in digital strategies, to sell more, to sell faster, to optimize your digital strategies and move forward. So while the last of you are logging on, why don't we just sort of introduce ourselves and get this show on the road? We are really, really delighted to have Franz with us today. He is the Senior International Trade Specialist and the Acting Design and Construction Global Team Leader. So really excited that Franz is with us. He's based in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, but I'm going to let Franz introduce himself more when he talks about some of the offerings for the U.S. commercial service and how that can be such a helping hand to U.S. exporters. My name is Susanna. I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. I'll be talking particularly today about some of the AI strategies, and I'm joined by my colleague Ava. Ava is in charge of strategic partnerships at IBT Online, and as a wealth of knowledge in the digital sphere. And I think Ava, why don't you introduce IBT Online as well as a company, please?
Yep, 100%. IBT Online stands for International Business and Technology. Essentially, we are a tech company and we are headquartered in Fort Lauderdale. We're a full stack digital marketing partner, which means that we do small projects to big projects, everything from SEO, keyword research. We're well in the weeds of website design and website redesign, whether that's for US domestic market or your Mexico or France or Europe, etc. And we're everything to do with digital marketing. And today that means being very AI powered. So we're going to be talking about LLMs. We're going to be talking about GEO and making sure that everyone, every business is more and more aware of how they can make sure that they're staying top of mind to their customers and top of mind to their partners by leveraging these new technologies and leveraging these strategies because they're really important for companies to stay involved in. We're here with a very localized approach. We believe in a localized approach, which means that we can take a company and make sure that they are found and visibility is growing in Mexico because we're going to target the specific audiences. And again, whether that's in the US or whether that's abroad, that we do the research and we provide the digital strategies to make that happen. I would add, because I'm the strategic partnership manager, that we have a strategic partnership with the U.S. Commercial Service, the ITA, which means that we work closely with the global team leaders, and that includes France, as well as the international trade specialists that are based in the United States, across the United States map, as well as those based in markets, so South Africa, Brazil, France, etc., which means that we're very well placed to help companies when they're choosing their international markets and saying what are the challenges that they're facing when they go into France or when they go into South Africa, etc. So we get better and better equipped and better able to answer the company's questions because we're so involved with the international trade specialists and we have ongoing communication and relationship. We also have strategic partnerships with the different economic development agencies that are based in the different states that you see here highlighted in orange. And again, it's a collaborative opportunity. It's a collaborative relationship where we try and share best practices and we do lots of events, for example, so that we get in touch with Florida companies, with New York companies, with Virginia companies, etc. And that's a helping hand for both us and we hope it really is a benefit to the different companies that we work with.
Thank you, Eva. We've decided to split this up really into parts to try and sort of shape it as well. We're going to start with Franz telling us a little bit more about U.S. commercial service and what offerings they have as we call it, this sort of helping hand. And after that, we're going to dive right into sort of the big picture stuff first, sort of how is AI impacting this marketing, the digital marketing and sales worlds, and how are they, what are the main power tools, what are the main trends that we're seeing there. After that, we're going to look at very practical examples of integrations that you can use for your digital marketing and your sales applications. So these are very practical based examples, and you should be able to take some hopefully take some case studies away with you. Finally, we're going to have a sort of a summary of some action plan. Going to highlight the resources, many of them free, and we've saved some time at the end for Q&A. So we look forward to you drop your questions, drop your questions into the chat box as we go along. And I would say we are very grateful for your time today. We realize you're all running businesses and that you're busy, so we do respect that and such. And so I would also encourage you to say, okay, I've taken the time out of my day. I'm going to not look at my phone. I'm going to not look at my second and third screen. I'm actually going to focus here and get engaged. You've carved out a time. Make the most of it. Ask the questions you don't have usually time to ask at all, and we hope to be helpful to you. So with that, I'm going to ask Franz just to tell us a little bit about U.S. Commercial Service, the offerings that are available to help. Franz.
Yeah, sure. Good morning. Next slide. Thank you everyone for joining today's AI and Digital Technologies webinar in partnership with IBT Online. As Susanna said, my name is Franz Hessel, and I am currently the Acting Design and Construction Global Team Leader here at the U.S. Commercial Service in Dallas, Florida. And I'm really excited to be part of this webinar and helping to put all this together. What I would like to do is kind of give everyone a brief overview of the commercial service, how we help U.S. firms overseas, and then turn it over to our colleagues at IBT. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Just to give everyone a broad overview, the U.S. Commercial Service is housed within the International Trade Administration, which is housed, as you can see, under the U.S. Department of Commerce. The U.S. Commercial Service is a business unit that is tasked with export promotion, investment promotion, commercial diplomacy, trade advocacy. A lot of what we focus on, particularly here on the global team side, is export promotion, where it is my role to help coordinate global trade programming, such as in export promotion, such as trade shows, such as webinars like these, market webinars, or trade missions. If we can go to the next slide, please. The U.S. Commercial Service has a variety of different services that we provide to our clients. I often like to describe that I happen to work for a consulting firm that just happens to be within the federal government. We have offices, we have a global footprint, so we have offices all over the U.S. and around the world. In our U.S. offices, we are called U.S. Export Assistance Centers, and in our consulates and embassies around the world, we are the commercial staff. So what we do is we help guide U.S. firms to export internationally, whether that be trying to understand the market culture, whether that is trying to understand the regulatory environment, provide market intelligence, or even go as far as helping companies find potential partners or end users, or meeting with government officials. I mean, our business matchmaking is the bread and butter. It's how we help balance the trade deficit, how we help our American companies at home, and how we help bring dollars back into your local communities. Next slide, please.
Sorry, there we go.
So with that, if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is there. As I said, as the Design and Construction Global Team Lead, we do have a variety of different programs and services coming up. If you aren't part of our newsletter, please send me an email and I can get you guys plugged in, so you can see all the different events that we have coming up, both online and around the world. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Susanna and Eva.
Thank you very much, Franz. I know we said we'd have questions at the end. Let's have one that might be just for you right now, which is,
sure.
What's the difference between you and the Small Business Administration?
The Small Business Administration, they also have an international trade office, but they don't have the robust network that we have. Our agency is specifically tasked at the intersection, of kind of like foreign affairs and international business, where we help companies navigate the international landscape when it comes to deciding which markets to go to. We have market experts in country, in consulates and embassies around the world. So, for example, in this sector, if you're an engineering firm or an architecture firm and you're trying to understand the licensing process within that country, we can provide that information. Or if you're trying to find end users or bid on projects, whether they're private projects or government projects, our embassy and our consulate staff is poised to stand ready to help navigate that, help you navigate that, help set up the meetings to make that happen, and advocate on your behalf, government to government. From my understanding, the SBA, even though they do have an international office or provide international services, they're not tasked with the same mandate that we're tasked. So we have a more robust suite of services to help U.S. businesses.
Thank you very much, Frank. Right, let's dive in. Maybe just before we start the whole session, I just wanted to ask you all a quick poll. Are you already active internationally? Are you already out there with local agents or on your own? Are you online? Do you have distributors? And I want to thank you very much for jumping on those responses. That's great. I'm seeing a lot with local partners. That's the big majority. And then there's a few who are thinking about it, but most of you seem to be already there. Nobody is online only. That's also interesting. And there's a few of you online and local partners, but the vast majority is with local partners. Well, good. I'm glad to see that you're there and trading internationally. So with that, let's give you some big landscape side of AI and what it means in the digital world, notably for marketing and the impact on sales that we're seeing. So just some background here. It's a very plugged in world that we are at the moment. 70% of the world has a mobile phone, and the vast majority, like 90% of those mobile phones, are internet enabled, so they're smartphones. So that means that 70% of the population are walking around with the possibility of the internet all the time. And 68% of the world's population uses the internet, is on the internet. And the vast majority of them are using social media as well. And the number that staggers me every time is that it's nearly 7 hours a day. So you got 5.5 billion people spending 7 hours a day on the internet. Now, if you're a US exporter, you're saying this is good news. I know where my prospective buyers are in the world, and I know how to reach them. They're online, and I reach them via social media. Is the absolute key. So it's really a very enabling power to have as if you're a small mid-cap company and you really want to reach these international markets and have an impact and grow your business. And the other big thing that's happening in this online world is these major trends that are shaping it at the moment. And what I find interesting philosophically really is that they converge. There's an absolute continuous growth of e-commerce, but this whole notion of social commerce and personalization is interwoven with this as well. Data privacy and security are major topics affecting all markets, and just a wave coming at you for this. And of course, AI is everywhere. I want to take you through just a couple of these what I call converging trends. And I did notice that as you were signing up, as we were looking through today's audience, many of you seem to have distributors as a route to market. And many of you already use e-commerce as far as we could tell. So therefore, I wanted to talk a little bit more also about e-commerce and that distributor and how AI tools can help you with both of those things. So just a couple of those, just drilling down on just a couple of those trends that we talked about. I mean, e-commerce is a global phenomenon, without a doubt. And there are many, many countries that shop. These are the slide you have here in front of you. That big white bar is the worldwide average, and the blue arrow on the bottom is the USA. But as you can see, even countries that are barely doing e-com, that are low down to the right-hand side, are still at sort of 34 or 40%. So 30, 40% of that market are already in e-commerce and on a weekly basis. The other thing to note is that the USA population represents just 12% of the global e-commerce market. And if you're like, well, I'm a construction company, I'm an engineering company, we really are B2B, and surely B2B doesn't have those numbers either. I would say careful. That's not what we're seeing. That's not what the data is showing at all. The data really shows that B2B e-commerce is about 3 times the size of B2C. And the B2C was really propelled by the pandemic, but B2B predates that in terms of its strength. And what we're seeing is companies really using types of e-commerce and being very innovative in their e-commerce to reach new markets. One of the solutions we're seeing most common, in fact, is something called a request to quote or build a cart style of e-commerce functionality for B2B. So these are order builder websites, which allows that personalization, that e-commerce functionality that a lot of your potential clients are looking for in today's world. They don't want a salesman calling them. What they want to do is they want to go onto someone's website. They want to go on a potential website and say, I want 1 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these. I don't know if they all merge, but request a quote. Send me a quotation for that. So in a sense, your salespeople are getting sales qualified leads, or at least market qualified leads from your website. They're then able to take that and say, that request a quote that you just sent in fact, we would recommend this, and have a conversation with that end buyer. But that personalization and that ability to function within and responsiveness within the website is increasingly important, and for B2B companies especially. It's the internet, again, just streaming back then, the internet really was founded on a lot of AI and types of AI. I mean, the whole notion of an algorithm, the whole notion of all the tools in the toolbox of a digital marketeer, from the endless ability to look at search words, keywords, geofencing, all of those things are types of AI. So it doesn't surprise me in the sense that the AI has affected the digital world, digital marketing and digital sales, especially hard and especially quickly. Obviously, LLMs, the large language models like Chat and Perplexity and the other ones, they are a paradigm shift. They're at a different level from the ones we were used to. But nonetheless, I think that the internet was ready for AI. It was, and I'm sure you've all seen this graph of the take up of ChatGPT. In 5 days, it was over 1 million people and users and so on. And I think Instagram took 3 years or a year for 1 million. But I think that shows to me how much the internet and users of digital tools were ready to embrace things like a type of AI, and particularly the large language models. If you're an exporter, what I really want you to understand is the impact of ChatGPT in particular in international markets. Just 15% of ChatGPT users are based in the United States. The ChatGPT and the way people search is going to be changing, and all the impact of these LLMs is very important for exporters to understand. And what you might find now is that your search and the way people search is changing. So on this chart, lots of numbers. On the right-hand side, you have the top 10 websites by volume last year. Dominated obviously by Google, 84 billion a month, but and going down to WhatsApp at 2.96. So a lot of companies there. 1 year later, chat has eaten market share, particularly from Google, also YouTube, particularly the very big ones, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It's really, and X as well, really eaten market share from them. From that. That was taken in February 2025. Hot off the press, July 2025, ChatGPT is really number 5 in the world for visited websites, 5 billion visits per month. It's now actually end of 1st of September. I was reading I haven't got the exact numbers yet, but it looks like it's over 7 billion a month, which would put it above Instagram. So how is this affected? What does this mean? One of the things it means is that you're going to have to rethink some of your digital strategies, and you're going to have to think about how this is impacting and what it means and how you're going to reflect this. So this is one of the things we wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to leave you with this slide here, some questions you might want to be asking your digital sales and marketing teams. So here's just some big questions. Which AI tools is best suited for my company? There's so many out there now. Does it mean I have to change my tech stack? Does it mean how do I train people? That's one of the big questions. Is how do I get all of my staff up and integrated into these systems? So for us, what we're seeing is that that integration of AI into digital marketing and sales, to combine this marketing, how to integrate that and how to align that with your digital presence. That's some of the things we're going to be talking about today. For that. Just because there's two other questions in there. Yes, you will get a recording of the slide deck in your inboxes tomorrow. If you particularly want the recording of the webinar, sorry, if you particularly want the slide deck, especially, let me know. Send me an email, and I will send you the slide deck as well. So let's look at that. That was sort of the big picture stuff. Let's look at some more practical applications now, and how some of these things can really help you drive up and drive your business forward and accelerate things. And I wanted to say, there's six big buckets, as it were, that we look at and say, here's how it's really helping your digital marketing and sales. And that's from the way you target your audience, the real-time analytics, which allows you to take smarter decisions. It's about market intelligence and competitor intelligence and tracking competitors. But it's also about content creation and how to scale it, and then also localized websites and how you can actually really, remember that whole slide about the personalization side, that sinking into that local feel. I'm going to step back now a second and talk about an absolutely fundamental aspect of all digital marketing and sales, especially for exporting. You really have to take it as a ground zero, as it were, for your marketing internationally. And that is this concept of localization and of localizing your presence for a buyer persona and the buyer's journey. So just a quick reminder, what is a buyer persona? A buyer persona is a person. It's not the company that you're targeting. It's a person within that company who actually signs the check, who signs the IPO, who signs the purchase order for you. So and maybe one of the best ways of figuring that out is to get your sales and marketing team around a table and say, right, sales team, who do you sell to? Who's the actual person that you go to meet at these sales trade fairs, at these sales meetings? Who is that person? And what are they like? And then once you define that in your domestic market, you say, okay, is my in-state buyer persona, the person next door to me, is it different from the one on the other side of the coast? And what about my international ones? Are they different? Is a distributor different from are there different types of buyer personas, in other words? Are there multiple buyer personas in my export markets? How do they find me? How do they interact with me? How do they engage with me? And in what way is that buyer's journey different? And there's lots of way of thinking about this in subtle ways, as for example with imagery. The image you have here on your screen is from L'Oreal USA. L'Oreal are trying to say this is what our buyer personas are like in the United States. They're these type of people. We're trying to reflect that in our imagery. So very female, very urban, top of the floor here. They're very engaged on their social media and on their computers, talking. All of them are engaging in some sort of conversation, but they're all female, as I said. If we go to L'Oreal Mexico, it's a little bit different because in L'Oreal Mexico, L'Oreal believes no, the Mexican buyer persona is slightly different. There's maybe 2/3 of them are male. They're more collegiate. They sit around together and discuss things more together. They're more collegiate than the U.S. ones. So again, there's a difference. And why is that important? Why is it important to know that? It's important to know these things because that way you understand the buyer's journey and you understand the information that your analytics give you. So this is a Facebook ad from years ago, but it's very telling to me, so I keep it. Facebook ad for the same company, same time, same product. One's targeting Brazil, one's targeting Canada. Canada, we got 1,200 engagements, which we thought was pretty good. And Brazil, we got over 20,000. Same ad, same time. It's just a phenomenally different reaction from the buyer persona. So the reaction of the buyer persona very different because the buyer persona engages in a different way. So it's understanding the buyer persona in each market and their buyer's journey. And that allows you to just have some respect and understanding of your end client. And therefore, sort of respecting that local buyer persona means that you engage with them in the right way so that it's really relevant to your local buyer persona. So any websites you might create, for example, are relevant to your local buyer persona. It's not about, please don't say it's about translation. It's never about translation. That's the icing on the cake. That's the easy bit. It's much more than that. It's how do they connect? How do they find you? How do they identify with you? How do they connect with you? How do they trust you? You've got basically 2 seconds when someone taps on your website, opens an ad, goes to your LinkedIn profile. You have 2 seconds. Google says it's less than 2 seconds. I don't understand how. 2 seconds, let's say, in order to build instant trust. That's not easy. So your websites and your digital assets have to be high performing and engage right away. They have to sync with that local buyer persona. Now, some of the good news is that there's a lot of AI tools that are now coming out, which allows that greater localization, as it's called, that really helps sharpen the local atmosphere of for your website and for your digital marketing. There's just an absolute sort of array of these tools that have sprouted in the last 18 months, and particularly the last 12 months, that we can use now to fine-tune people's digital assets according to different markets to make sure they really do resonate with the local buyer and really build that trust that you need to propel the buyer's journey. Just to give you an example, the translation tools and the multilingual tools now are actually worth looking into. Even 2 years ago, we were they were simply just not good enough, and now they really are good enough and clever enough to actually build on some keywords, build on multilingual SEO. So that's great. Equally for user experience and for how people navigate through a website, it's really worth looking at. We talked a little bit about ChatGPT earlier and how it's looking and how people are now searching via chat. What does that mean for your business? And should you be aware of it? Should you take account of it? Should you do anything with that? I think you'll find if you look into your analytics, it starts really showing up in your analytics. This was taken a few months ago, but there's ChatGPT coming in right under ThomasNet for a B2B company. So again, it's starting to get there. And I was looking at this company day before yesterday, and it's now above Bing. ChatGPT is now above Bing. Now, what does that mean for you as a company? So what does that mean for how you're looking at content, how you're looking at your websites, how you're looking at your digital strategies for international markets, especially? One thing it means is that the way you create content, the way you portray things needs to change. Google is still by far the leader in terms of search in almost all markets except for China. It's got sort of 90% market share in Europe, 90% in Latin America, for example, 70%, 75% in the USA. So it's an absolute, elephant in the room, the mastodon in the room. But as I said, and I showed you earlier, it is being caught up and market share is being taken away from it by these large language models, particularly ChatGPT. And it's the way people use those search engines versus the generative search, which is different. People are still using Google for simple, clear searches. What time is my train? Is the bakery open? When is the next school holiday? All of that, go to Google. It's a clear yes, no, and response that you're looking for. A very fast search. People look at chat and things like that in a very different way. They'll ask how questions. How does this hydraulic pump fit into my industrial process? What is the potential ROI of integrating this machine into that machine? How does this solve my problem, in other words? And in fact, if you're looking at that, you're saying Google is then used for simple questions, and AI is used much more for more complex questions. Therefore, people value the searches done by chat more than they do Google searches. And that's so chat and other LLMs is taking market share away from these big search engines, but they're also taking the value away or chipping away at it at least. So there's a lot you can do about this, and I've put a few things on this slide to make sure that your digital assets start being ranked by the LLMs, and notably for your export markets, since as we saw earlier, export markets use things like chat even more than the US does. I guess counterintuitively, but not really, the quality of your content has to increase. And the consistency and structure of it, what's called a schema, has to be really on point for the LLMs to be able to appreciate your content. So strategies will be much longer tail keywords, much more questions and structured information. But above all, it's quality content that is relevant to your local buyer personas and that journey. So it's not so much about you and your company, it's more about how you're solving problems for them. So this is what's called GEO. And we also used to talk about SEO, search engine optimization. Now people talk about GEO, generative engine optimization, which means really getting your digital assets, your websites, your LinkedIn campaigns, your ad campaigns ready and effective for the generative engines, the LLMs, the ChatGPTs of the world. So it's really about structuring your content and making sure that the quality is high. So it's as we said, AI readable, not just Google indexed. If you want to learn more about that in particular, we've got a bunch of things on our website. If you go to ibt.onl/resources, there's lots of blogs, articles about GEO, what it means for your content, and how you can optimize it better. So that's already one of the big things there. So we've talked a little bit about e-commerce. We've talked a little bit about local buyer personas. We've talked about the AI optimizing your local websites. We've talked now about GEO. I want to mention now sort of market intelligence and what I call AI-driven market intelligence. This is something which you can really reach out to France and U.S. commercial service. It's one of their absolute core offerings. And they've got, long history of it, and they give a fantastic service and a very good value for money on market intelligence with their boots on the ground everywhere. But AI allows you also to have market intelligence and follow the voice, not only your own digital voice or your company's voice, but also the brand voices of your competitors on markets. And if you're looking in, the thing that interests me the most is that for the first time, we're able to really get some ideas of predictive analytics for markets. And that's always been a bit of a special goal for marketeers, is to have some sort of predictive analytics. And with AI, you are beginning to scratch into that. And that is a very important and empowering thing for that. So I did mention that many of you are in e-commerce, and we looked at those numbers earlier about the level of e-commerce across the globe. AI in e-commerce is absolutely vital. It's just at another level. It's, e-commerce, as you all know, is a competitive space. It's tough, very price sensitive, very service sensitive. The experience is all, we've got Amazon who delivers the next day and has all these products and so on. And so when even a B2B, you go onto a B2B site, you're like, well, deliver it the next day. It's like, well, so it is tough. We're sort of held to that level all the time. And AI allows you to, stretch out that value and become more competitive, more personalized, to improve the customer experience, also the analytics that go with it, which allows you to stay very competitive for that. So it really helps you in the three big pain points that one has in e-commerce, B2B and B2C, which is customer experience, the operational efficiency behind the back end. Is it integrating with your logistics? Is it integrating with your CRM? Is it integrating with your delivery and payment methods? And then that ability to stay very competitive and very much on top. AI as a whole, I could, we could do the whole entire presentation just on e-commerce and AI, but I wanted to just leave you with one sort of slide to show you a little bit where some of those major aspects are coming from. And if you remember in the beginning, we talked about some of the big trends and the converging trends. E-commerce and personalization is very much two of those trends coming together. And that personalization, you're able to do that increasingly at scale and at a decent price with AI tools. And that's, at the simplest level, it's chatbots, which are multilingual, which help you. And then up from there is obviously avatars, also multilingual, which really engage with the seller. That whole the smart product recommendations that we've all been, has really come a long way. So here are some of the major things which allows you to have extra personalization. And just in sort of one slide, if you were to say, where does AI come in to the e-commerce sphere? How does it affect the different parts of it? I've sort of put it into four big sort of areas, three really big areas of where AI affects the e-commerce journey. The one is the sort of machine learning, which we've always had, has always been there with e-commerce, and that's about recommendation engines. That's classic. You buy an iPhone on Amazon, and then it asks you if you want to buy the case or something like that. That's those kind of recommendations, and the dynamic pricing ability as well. Natural language processing, that allows you the chatbots, the avatars, customer support, all that sentiment aspect and the personalization aspect. And then very, very importantly, increasingly importantly, is CV, the computer vision. A lot of people, especially in export markets, search through imagery. And if they're not searching through imagery, they're searching through words, but when they see the image, they go down that route. So that's that visual search and the quality control that you have with it. And again, that's an increasingly important aspect of it. So we've talked about buyer personas, localized websites, geo and search engines, a bit more about e-commerce. I want and market intelligence. I want to talk about sort of scalable content as well, and how AI can help you scale your content and really push that forward. Again, in different languages, in different ways. So, generative AI and using these LLMs, it actually takes a lot of work to actually build up the dedicated agents that you need. It's not a question of just typing something into chat and then getting it back and then using it. That would be a very poor performance. It takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill, a lot of experience to be able to prompt and to build up what's called an agent that speaks in the type of voice you want and has the type of answers and legitimacy that you want to really have a constructive, valid content. But once you have that, you can really then scale content very nicely and very well. So there's a lot, and again, I've put a lot on this scale that on this slide that you can walk through it at your leisure. But I think it's AI content creation is again an enormous enabler, a powerful tool, and especially for mid-cap companies who have stretched resources and who say, well, I don't have a big department here. It allows you really to scale things, double, triple the speed of the past. Excuse me. I want to just to finish this part before we give some examples, just to mention just one aspect about AI, and that is the need for some kind of guardrails, or at least at the minimum a strategy that comes from the board about AI use within the company. It's how do you use it? What is the policy in your company? Do you have an AI policy? If not, we would really recommend that you look into that. And here's some thoughts that you might want to include in that. Human oversight, accountability, monitoring, testing, transparency, ethical, and so on. So just some things to think about when you are setting up an AI policy for your company. Very much worth doing, and we would really recommend that. Before I go on, I just wanted to say, just another little poll. We were interested to know, are you already integrating AI into your business activities? Do you do them across all activities? Do you begin to use just specific tasks? Are you still in the thinking about it? Have you not even gotten near that because it looks like scary? Just to give you many of you are still thinking about it. The majority are beginning to use AI for specific tasks. Still, nobody at this point has across a variety of business applications. The vast majority are beginning to use AI for specific tasks. Okay, one or two of you across a variety of business applications. Thank you very much. We're going to end that poll. Thanks for jumping on that. We want now to give you some use cases, some thoughts about some examples of clients and of our clients that are using AI and how they're using it, in what ways, and the effect of it. I'm going to start with a company called Amsoil. They make synthetic motor oil, and they support a whole big network of distributors. And I wanted to use this example in particular because, as I said earlier, looking through the registrants, it looks to us like a lot of you, when we look at your websites, a lot of you work via distributors. We would really encourage you to make sure that you own those URLs, that you don't just give your distributor your local, your international websites. Amazon, for example, says we own our websites, we do all the marketing, we push leads to our distributors. And then our distributors are responsible for logistics, for after sales service, for client queries, things like that. But the brand image, the brand voice stays with the parent company. And I think that is a very wise decision to do. It's a very smart thing to do. And so we've been very honored to work with Amazon now for 10 years on their digital marketing strategy and work with them on all of their international markets. So they generate, and they have a lot of different markets. And it used to be a lot of work for us, a lot of juggling around to produce the type of that was both localized enough but still on brand. And now we're able to just really do that in a much more flexible way, in a much more proactive way, and really drill down much faster and harder on the individual countries, export markets, and even with the distributors. We're also able to really go into a geographic area and do geofencing. So, if it really within a short distance, you can say, okay, within 10 miles of that distributor, what is it? Within 50 miles, what is it? So advertise within a very short area as well, which is very pinpointed. And that's I think that. And again, in the social media aspect as well, it's that whole aspect of building brand awareness over time and having the analytics to back it up. That allows you to really be very, very proactive, very active in terms of, this ad is working, double down on it. This ad is not working, take it off, and be very fast about that so that the return on investment improves and you're not wasting ad spend on things that are not resonating with your audience. Another aspect is using AI tools to refine and improve user experience and to optimize the user experience when you're doing website design and build. So this is a US company. We were looking at their US website. They have a lot of different brands within that one website. They have a lot of different applications, how to make it all smooth. And AI tools now allow you to do very intricate heat maps and show you where there is interest in the existing website and make sure that you're using that to the best of your abilities when you're redesigning websites to make them to improve the user experience of those websites. So that's another great AI tool for that. And then digital marketing for lead gen, especially. Again, another company actually in the building sector, they make machines for this. And they do a lot of work in the Middle East where we run all their campaigns. And again, it's about finding, they want distributor acquisition, and then they also want to generate leads for those distributors. And again, it's about being able to target with much more precision individual markets and individual tasks and people within markets. One was always able to do this quite well within LinkedIn. It's very expensive. And now we're finding that we can do it across different markets using AI tools. And the good news is as well, a lot of those AI tools allow you to have a strong multilingual ability with keywords. Just a last thing, which is to sort of say, normally this is the kind of thing, the analytics and tracking the ROI. In many ways, this is the thing that doesn't interest clients that much, but it's the absolute core of how you run any kind of digital marketing strategy. So, the analytics, again, is much stronger now because of AI tools that allow you to really dig deep into the data to take very fast decisions based on data. So data-driven decisions for that. Right. Just before we go to that last thing, if anyone would like to learn more about smart digital marketing strategies, please let us know. We'd be happy to send you some blogs, point you in the right direction, have a call to chat through possibilities. And again, thank you very much for that responsiveness. We appreciate it. Right, okay. I'm going to end that poll and move on. We're going to just go on to sort of some what I call action plans. I wanted to remind you about the 6 areas that we talked about for practical applications for AI for exporters. That localization, that whole ability to identify the buyer persona and their buyer's journey, which is now increased with AI tools to have optimized websites. The market intelligence side, and that hyper personalization that you can now have, particularly for e-commerce. Scalable content creation, and the tools needed for the global markets, in particular language tools, and the analytics that come with it. So sort of, what we're looking at to help out, sort of recapping some of those things, is that whole aspect of that local buyer persona, respecting that local buyer persona and drilling down to get the trust that you need in that buyer's journey. And that's sort of the baseline of any digital marketing, any digital outreach that you have, really is that whole, that core product of your website, and that responds and speaks to your local buyer persona. So if you're looking for steps, how do I start all this? What do I do? We would recommend really that you start by looking at your existing digital export readiness and your digital toolbox, and say, are we ready for this? Is this a good thing? Is our website fit for purpose? When was the last time it was redone? Is it mobile enabled? Has it got good load speeds? Is high res imagery? What about the user experience? And then ask the question, are your digital assets ready for AI? Do you have those long tail keywords? Is your content high, good quality, and structured within various schemas that facilitate searches for ChatGPT and other language models? In other words, is it geo enabled? And again, there's lots of resources that you can go to for that. So that's sort of step 1. Step 2 could be to say, right, once you're clear that everything's good and your top premium optimal digital assets, right? That's great. Now, where does AI fit into my sales and marketing funnel? And how do I manage that? And what we would say is just look at a very specific area, look at a very specific task. Like, okay, there's like launching a new product. Okay, let's see if we can take this new product and apply some AI tools to it. Let's say we're going to a trade show. Okay, let's create a landing page. Let's create a marketing task that goes with it. Let's segment our database better. Let's put out email marketing for that. So identify an aspect which is well defined and well developed there, and then say, okay, now how do we put what AI fits best in this? Who rolls it out, and how do we do it? And then step 3, do it. Step into it. If it's a well-defined project, just launch. Just go for it internally. You will be learning via doing in that sense. As long as it's a well-defined, well ring-fenced, you're going to be learning through that experience. I wanted to give you some resources as well before we end up with some questions as we're nearing time. Remember, France, based in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and is the design and construction global team leader. We know France as well. He has enormous experience as well in other areas. Aerospace, avionics, Europe, he is a huge helping hand. Get in touch with him if you have questions. Go meet him, whatever. So and the U.S. Commercial Service has a ton of resources that you can access, and good value for money services. we thought we'd also put together a series of learning and tools for success, called. There's some great YouTube channels. We are a HubSpot partner, and I do think that out of them all, I think that HubSpot has some fantastic resources, many of them free, for those of you who are starting an AI journey, particularly on international markets. So I would recommend looking through the HubSpot resources. But future tools, OpenAI, they all have also resources, many of them free. There are a lot of web resources, including our website. If you go on to IBT Online /resources, there's lots of free of charge open resources that you can go on. Again, trade.gov, the U.S. Commercial Service one, for that is great as well. And then for those of you who still like books, I've listed five books that are great knowledge base as well. So there. With that, I think if we have some time and we have questions, then I'm happy to address them. There's one question, which is, which LLM is superior in terms of search? Is it only Chat or Perplexity or Claude? They're all good. They're all relevant. ChatGPT is the market leader, and is the one that you'll find. You'll find that some of them are starting to specialize a bit more into. I mean, those are all the general LLMs. They're starting to specialize a little bit more into like this type of search or that type of research and things. There's also just an absolute explosion of AI-enabled software for all aspects of a business in today's world. The trick is to find the one that suits you best, that suits budgets best, and actually does what it says it does. I would really recommend you shop around a lot before launching into one or the other. That looks like it for the answer questions. I do have one more about, yes, you will get a recording of the slide deck in your inbox tomorrow, or a recording of the webinar, sorry, in your inbox tomorrow. If there are no other questions, then I wanted to thank my colleagues, Ava, and also especially France, Rosaline, for joining today and for talking about and for helping U.S. exporters the way he does. Thank you all so much. Most of all, thank you for attending and for being here, and we hope this was of use to you. Thank you again very much, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you. Bye-bye.